Hi guys, this is Ali Hussein Kassim of Ali Talks Tech. In the sidelines of Novacom South Africa 2024. Today I have another interesting guest, Mr. Ashley Bryuns. Ashley is Senior Manager Software Engineering at MTN Software Solutions. Ashley.
Hi.
Welcome, as we say back in my home country of Kenya, Karibu, which means welcome. So Ashley, we are talking about telco, we're talking about mobile money, we are talking about financial inclusion, we are talking about all sorts of stuff. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll go straight into a bit of banter on a couple of questions on the topics that I've mentioned.
Sure. So I'm Ashley Bryuns. I've got more than 20 years in technology. I like to consider myself a technologist.
Okay.
Got a background in software engineering.
Okay.
It's the software solutions angle. Been involved in telco for probably the better part of 15 years.
15 years. Okay.
Different indices. So
you're a veteran.
Pretty much, but different technologies, right? So building solutions for telcos, but also for VoIP solutions as well. So, been busy building solutions for many years.
Okay.
Been interesting to notice the trends in tech as well.
Okay.
So how we've gone from very much sort of decentralized platforms, we went decentralized, and now it seems like we're centralizing everything in the cloud. But also it's been interesting just to see the trends in the development space as well.
Okay.
So how the languages have changed and adopted and the frameworks that have come out.
Do you still use C++?
Not as much. I actually started out in the Delphi world back in the late 90s, actually, and then moved to Java. In Java for many years, but it's interesting to see the trends, see the technology changes. So I guess I've been, I've been lucky to be involved in the changes in the technology in terms of now the move to cloud and in terms of AI and the AI picking up, and in terms of that, as I say, I'm a technologist, so outside of work, I'm always just looking at technology as well. It's not just work for me. It's always interested in what's out there, what's changing, where are we going, what is coming along to better our world, I guess, and also just looking at the context of where we are within Africa, looking at the changes and how technology is making positive changes in our space.
Tell me a bit about MTN Software Solutions. So I am presuming, of course, this is part of the larger MTN group, the Telco.
Correct. So as with many telcos around the world, there's a need to change and adapt, as with most industries.
Correct.
Right? If you look at the changes, and MTN recently had their 30th anniversary as well. So there's a big drive for MTN to move from a telco to a Techco. And with that comes a need
from a telco to
a Techco.
A Techco. Okay.
Yeah. So focusing on technology, focusing on platforms, focusing on how do we provide better value to our customers, to the business. So you think about, you mentioned Fintech. Right? So looking at MTN MoMo as an example, right? Bringing mobile money to Africa. You're looking at the services it provides, you look at the integration it provides. That's part of it. Software solutions.
So let's zero in before we go into software solutions, since you mentioned MoMo. So we all know that the cradle of mobile money in the world is Kenya, M-Pesa.
Correct.
So M-Pesa started about 14 years ago. Today it's arguably a market leader in Africa. But MTN MoMo has come from nowhere to now actually be competing head-to-head with M-Pesa. How has that evolved, and how do you see the future? And as you answer that question, talk to me about why you think MoMo hasn't really caught up in MTN's home market of South Africa.
So that's an interesting one. So I think in terms of just the MoMo side of things, I think the one key part is that it's not just to be like for like with M-Pesa. I think that's the important thing. I think as MTN, we like to differentiate. Think what can we do differently? How do we do things differently? How do we integrate it, right? So it's not just about providing the same services that an M-Pesa will provide. So interesting, I have had some history with M-Pesa through other telcos in the past. And I did an interesting case study on why M-Pesa struggled in South Africa.
Yes.
Because M-Pesa was released in South Africa.
Yes, it struggled.
And I think at max it had just over a million customers on it.
Correct.
One of the case studies that I read seems to focus on the banking industry in South Africa, and I think at the time, the banking industry was a bit more mature in South Africa from a South African context, and they focus on the fact that it's easy to get cheap banking products in South Africa. So you look at, for example, how Capitec has taken the South Africa by storm. You've had Time Bank, that's come in and
Capitec is an interesting case study.
It is. And that's apparently part of it, because a lot of the services that are provided by those tools, the banks provide as well, right?
Okay. No, I'm in complete agreement. In fact, I did a post today morning on LinkedIn about exactly the same issue. So, look, one of the things for me that is interesting is that we've talked a lot for many years about financial inclusion. I think the conversation is moving more towards financial wellness as opposed to inclusion. However, I think we are forgetting that we sometimes seem to be sitting in our ivory towers in the 5 major fintech markets of Africa: Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and to a lesser extent, Senegal. Because we have achieved quite a bit of inclusion, we seem to think that this conversation around financial inclusion is not important anymore in Africa. Yet, numbers are very important to talk about. 1.4 billion Africans. Only 10 to 15% of payments are digital to date, right? Bank or mobile money accounts. So today we are really talking about financial services accounts, because mobile money is also financial services. I would say have not hit 40% across Africa. So the role of tech, I like to call them tech fins.
Yep.
Or Telcos, whichever way you want to talk about. The role of big players like MTN, M-Pesa Africa, Airtel, Orange Money, Echo, I think EcoBank being one of the largest in terms of footprint across Africa from financial services, are going to be increasingly put on the spotlight. What roles you guys are playing in ensuring that more Africans have access to financial services? So we know, I think it's Mark Anderson who coined the term software is eating the world, right? And you are sitting at the forefront as a senior manager in software and engineering in probably one of the largest companies in Africa. How do you see your role evolving in the next couple of years?
So that's an excellent question. So if I look at some of the challenges, right? So when you look at a solution like MoMo, right? And you look at the MTN subscriber base, and you think if every subscriber uses it, you look at that install base, right? So we as software solutions, we look at, well, what are the roadblocks to getting that implemented, right? So how do we have a solution that we can easily implement across the different opcos, right? So operating companies, sorry, is what we call them. And one of the challenges is, what we're seeing at the moment is, a lot of the applications are built per region, right? So what we're saying is, well, how do we as software solutions change that view? How do we look at better integration across the space? What is needed for that to happen? And it's already something that we are looking at around integration. So you think that all of the different telcos have their different systems, they have different customer bases. And those are ways of how you reach those customers. So how do we integrate a lot of those systems? How do we provide services that helps bring all of that together so that you can have seamless rollout across all those regions? Because that's part of the problem. Same with M-Pesa, it gets rolled out region per region and it's not consistent. And it's the same issue on the MTN side as well, in that how do you simplify your rollout to your different markets? Considering that they are running different platforms, the subscriber base is different, but having at least a way to reach most of the subscriber base. And I think that's part of the first challenge, and that's the big one that we're tackling in terms of how do we simplify that? We've all had we've all read the articles around super apps and this one app, and thinking about, so if we were going to take the same application to all those markets, what do we need to do, software solutions to make that happen? How do we make sure that we can handle different currencies? How do we make sure that we can handle different functionalities? And then, of course, there's the regulatory issues. Each region has their own rules, what you're allowed to do. Each region has its own rules around data, where it runs as well. We know that there are countries where you're not allowed to use cloud services. And all of that comes into play, right? So what we're looking at is, holistically, how do we solve some of these challenges?
Look, I mean, Ashley, I wish we had more time, but for me, one of the most interesting points that you've raised today is, as a software engineer, you're already starting to think about regulatory issues. That's not something you guys used to think about.
No.
You're just coding, you don't give a hoot about anything else beyond your small little environment. That's commendable. And really, I must shake your hands for that. Really, as a senior manager in software engineering, if you are already starting to think about those things, you're already starting to think about how different users in different countries are going to consume your products, what sort of APIs are going to be important in Niger that may not really necessarily work the way they work in South Africa. That's super important. And that's the essence of thinking global and operating at a local level. I see a bright future for this continent when super sharp and brilliant and senior guys like yourselves sitting at the apex of one of the largest companies in Africa, and one of the most relevant today, because when you are providing communication services, you're providing mobile money, and you're already starting to think like that, it's great. Any last words, last comments you want to tell us before we close out this interesting conversation?
I think the next big thing is, and I hate to jump on the bandwagon, the AI bandwagon.
Yes.
What we are looking at is, how do we use some of the tools available to accelerate what we're doing? So not just AI for the sake of AI, but actually using AI in a meaningful way.
Contextually, from a Pan-African perspective.
Exactly. So look at it as, how do we use it to further what needs to happen on this continent?
Yeah.
How do we use it to assist us to get these solutions out there quicker? How does it assist our teams? How does it assist our young people? We have an interesting debate around AI tools. It's a conversation for another day. But thinking about the next generation as well, right? Because we sort of getting closer to, I don't want to say the end of our careers,
yes.
But you have to think about the next generation.
I agree.
And getting them ready for, call it the coming AI storm, but getting them used to
which is already here.
Which is already here, right? So this is what we're looking at, and I think in terms of parting thoughts, it's not about us, it's about the next generation.
Ashley, thank you so much. Asante sana. Thank you. That is thank you very much in Kiswahili. And I look forward to further conversations with you. Thank you, sir. All right, cheers. There you have it.